I'm very tempted to say good morning, everyone, because I just flew in from New Zealand and it's about 3 a.m. for me. So, good morning. I'd like to ask you a question. And the question is, in your field, in your particular field, are you world class? Are you top 100, top 50, top 10, top 5? Some of you, I could see nod a little bit. And if you did, if you are world class, I just want to say, good on you. Keep doing what you're doing. If you shook your head a little bit and said, no, I'm not, this talk's for you. Or maybe some of you sit back and think, I don't think I can. I'm too old, too young, born in the wrong place. I live in the wrong city. I don't really think I've got what it takes. If that's you, this talk's definitely for you. But why would you even listen to me? I mean, who am I? Why would you listen to me? And I think you should listen to me because I've done it and I can show you how to do it too. Because it doesn't really matter what your field is. It doesn't matter if you're a software developer, a business analyst, a tester, researcher, agile coach. The approach, the attitude, the mindset is exactly the same. I'm a very old person. I'm in my 3rd career. In my very first career, I used to play handball. I played for some of the best clubs in Europe. I was professional in Austria and in Denmark. I won the European Champions League twice. And I represented Austria at the Olympic Games in Barcelona. And I wish I had slides. In my 2nd career, I became a software developer, because what else would you do as a former athlete? Became a software developer. I invented a method for how to safely get everyone to pick their own team. And I wrote a book about it. Should you be thinking about writing a book, by the way? Don't. It's a lot of work. And in my 3rd career, I started a small but perfectly formed company, and I work as an agile coach. And basically, I help teams and individuals to collaborate and to work in a very similar fashion to professional sports teams. I'm also an avid CrossFitter and a newly minted surfer. And you might realize that at some of those things I am or have been world class. Others, still working on them. But the thing is, the foundation for all of those, the mindset, the attitudes, the personal skills are exactly the same. And whether in your field you're a beginner who's slowly finding the ropes, or an intermediate, or an advanced stage, I have some tips that can help you. And the number one thing that anyone who's good at anything does is to constantly chase excellence, to constantly find a context and situations where you can learn. The foundation is at being good at something, at becoming world class, is to chase excellence and to seek out opportunities to grow and learn. And if you do follow my advice, I can't promise you that you're going to go to the Olympics. I can't promise you that you're going to be world class. But what I can promise you is that you're going to find the joy and the fire and the fun in being the best you can possibly be. And I have some tips. You ready for them? Cool. My very first tip is pick your team wisely. And I've one guideline for how to pick your team. Jesus. I've got one guideline for how to pick your team, and that is be the worst player on the best team that will still accept you. Why? If you're the worst player on the best team that will accept you, you're surrounded by people who are way better than you. You get access to really good people you can learn from, and you also get access to better coaches and to a more supportive environment. And it helps you normalize high performance. It helps you normalize world class. Because if you're an Olympian, I mean, we seriously don't wake up every morning thinking, oh my God, I'm so good, I'm an Olympian. Because everyone else around you is too. Everyone is at the same level and everyone is really good. And what that does, it helps you lift your level of ambition, the level of opportunity and possibility to normalize what you can achieve. But here's a dirty little secret. Chasing excellence really sucks. Because just imagine you are the worst player on the best team that would still accept you. The thing is, you feel really inadequate. Everyone around you is really good, and you're not. And you feel inadequate because you are inadequate. Remember, worst player on the best team. And I remember being 15, and I just made the Austrian national team. I was trying to hang in there for my dear life, everyone being way better than me. I worked as hard as I'd never before. And I found myself trying to get up in some God-forsaken mountain village in Bulgaria after 14 days of training. So I worked harder than I had ever in my life before. And I was surrounded by people who were really, really old. I was 16. They were about 25. So we had about nothing in common. And in German, you have this like formal you. I wasn't even sure whether I should use the formal or informal you. So this is quite a lonely place, being the worst player around. So what that means for you is go where the good people are. And that starts with the organisation you join. That starts with the workplace you're at. Try to join an organisation where people are good, where there is an environment of support and learning, and where people share information. So there are good people around, and you have access to those good people, and they're willing to teach and share. Once you've made it into one of those organisations, see if you can join a team that's just a little bit better than where you're at. See if a team where you can learn something will accept you. If you're lucky, you get to pick your team. And if you're not lucky and you don't get to choose, maybe try to negotiate. Try to negotiate with the manager or the team. Do something in return. Run a book club, run a guild, teach something. But try to find a way into a team where you think you can learn something. And whether or not you're part of a team, surround yourself with people who are better than you are. go to conferences, preaching to converted. But once you are at that conference, maybe there are some speakers or book authors that you really respect. So don't be shy, walk up to them, and while, of course, respect their time, but talk to them, ask them the questions you always wanted to ask, and try to learn from them. And there's a last thing about teams that athletes do that I think we don't do enough in our workplaces. And that is leave. In our workplaces, we always feel really bad about moving on. Because what about my team? If I leave, what's going to happen to them? Isn't it really unfair? No athlete would ever think like that. If you find a way to get on a better team, you say yes to the opportunity, you leave and you move on. And by that, I don't mean go to work and be a total dick and go, oh, I'm out of here. Like in football, there are transfer windows. Make sure there's a succession plan. Be good and nice about it. But if you do have another offer where you can learn more, go and grab it. Gets me to my second tip. If you do team sports, you get really, really good at working with absolutely anyone. Because greatness in a team sport or at work is never, ever achieved alone. I will even go as far as saying that individual performance is irrelevant, or it is only relevant insofar it contributes to the team effort. And we see the same in our workplaces. I mean, the last, 20, 30 years of research have shown that we do our best work in teams. We don't achieve things on our own. Last 20 years, all the methods, agile, any methods of achieving and of working at all is based on teams, on small groups of people collaborating. The thing is that collaboration gets harder the better you become. If you are on a low-level team or you're playing sports for fun, you're probably friends. It's people you like. But once you get to a higher and higher level, the talent pool gets bigger. So all of a sudden, you have people who are from a really, really, really diverse range of backgrounds. Because on a team, on a sports team, a professional team, you're going 100% by skill and maybe potential. That's it. And what that gives you is a radical diversity in terms of socioeconomics, in terms of age, in terms of values. And I'll give you an example. My background, I'm from Vienna, Austria. I'm middle class, urban, atheist, gay. And I used to play with people who were from bumblefuck nowhere, deeply religious, thinking being gay is a sin. Totally different values. I wouldn't normally even go for a coffee with those people. But still, it's the best left wing in the world. So I do want to play with her. And I think I want to challenge that notion that in order to work together, we need to like each other. Because I think we don't. We need to treat each other with respect, and we need to have each other's back on the field. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be friends at work or in a team. This is my friend Leo. I was lucky on a team to have a friend. But it's not a prerequisite to succeed. We don't have to like each other. We just have to respect each other. And I think that's a bit easier on a sports team because we have dreams. We can have dreams of going to the Olympics, of winning the Olympics. And those dreams are the glue of cohesion. They're the glue that make us want to work together. On a work team, this is possible too. We need to have a purpose. We need to have shared goals, something that creates the desire for us to overcome our differences and work together to achieve something. And in a team, whether it's at work or in sports, we need to make sure that we have clear rules and guidance for how to work together and how to behave towards each other, especially if we are super diverse, like on a sports team, and even our work teams are becoming more and more diverse. We need to make sure that we all adhere to the same rules when we respect each other. There's a really good book that's called The No Arsehole Rule. It's not me swearing, that's the actual book title. And it's a guy named Bob Sutton. He looked into the cost of someone who displays toxic behavior on a team. And it's giga enormous. He puts actual numbers on it, and he finds out that it never ever pays off to keep a toxic person on a team. In sports, the toxic person is the player who doesn't pass, the player who just keeps the ball and wants to score the goal. They want to have the fame for themselves, even if someone else is in a better position. At work, it's the BA who refuses to learn anything technical because they're not technical. It's the developer who refuses to test because testing's kind of boring. And it's the manager who keeps knowledge to themselves in order to be in a better position. And I don't know, have any of you been that person? I've been all of them. Inadvertently, without planning to, I have been all of those people. And the thing is, this is not personality. This is behavior, and behavior can be changed. And as Bob Sutton says in his book, if someone displays this behavior, we need to change the behavior or get rid of the person if we can't. And in order to change the behavior, we're going to be really, really good at feedback, both at giving and at receiving feedback. We need to have those hard conversations. And there's two types of feedback. One is feedback on the field. Those are the things where we, without any emotion, need to be able to tell each other what we need from each other. Right here, right now. There's no time to wait until halftime or until after the game. It's just, I need you to pass the ball over here. And it can come from the most senior person or the most junior person. There's no hierarchy in this. Everyone needs to observe and call out what needs to be done. That goes in sports teams and also software development teams. And then there's the other type of feedback. That's the feedback off the field. Feedback off the field is often stuff that can wait, and it's usually a bit bigger. It's what I call discussing the undiscussables. When I was around 19, I had a phase where I thought I was really cool going out, drinking during the weekends, could totally get up in the morning, show up for training. I was fine, totally getting away with it. Until one day, there was this older player who took me aside and said, Sandy, if you go out and drink and you show up for practice the morning after and you're not 100% present, you're damaging the team, you're damaging me. I am working my ass off and you're not giving 100%. You are hurting all of us. And of course, my first reaction was being defensive. Like, nah, it's fine. Until I realized she had every right to say this, because this is not just my personal business. If it impacts the team, it's everyone's business. And years later, I came across this framework for feedback, which is called Radical Candor. It's by Kim Scott. It's a really good book. And she looks at feedback around two axes. One is, do you challenge the person directly or not? And the other one is, do you care personally or not about the person or the team? And that little story I just told you about taking me aside and drinking too much, that was clearly in the corner of the radical candor. She cared about me and the team and challenged directly. And then there are the other forms of feedback where if you challenge but you don't actually care, it's just obnoxious aggression. It's like, hey, that blog post of yours really sucked. It's not useful feedback. There's manipulative insincerity. You don't challenge, you don't care. You basically just tell them, it's fine. Can't be bothered, it's fine, just keep doing what you're doing. And then there's the ruinous empathy, which is when you don't challenge, but you do care. And that's usually when we don't want to tell someone something because we don't want to hurt their feelings. Happened to me recently when got some feedback about my public speaking, and that was, well, she's never going to go anywhere with that accent. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me know. She's never going to go anywhere. And instead of telling me, they told my partner. And I felt, and my business partner told me, and I felt really, really cheated because, yes, that person didn't want to hurt my feelings, but I'm not working on my number 2, number 3, number 4 problem, except for the one big problem that I apparently have. So it's actually really unfair. And the corner where we want to be, where we want to give feedback or receive feedback, is radical candor. We care and we challenge. Whenever I find myself wanting to give feedback, the first thing I do is question myself, which corner am I in? If I'm completely honest with myself, where does this come from? And only if I'm in radical candor will I have the hard conversation. Same goes for receiving feedback. Any feedback I get, if it doesn't come from radical candor, I will ignore it. And that's something I have learned from this guy, one of my first coaches, Vinko Kandia. He was an excellent coach, and what I learned from him was that you choose which feedback you listen to. Because I don't know if you've been playing professional sports, but if you do, every man and his dog has an opinion about what you should do. And they are not shy of telling you. Anyone in the audience, any sponsor, everyone's telling you what they think. And what I learned was that most feedback, ignore it. It's either not coming from a place of radical candor or the person is not qualified. But at the same time, choose who you do listen to. So listen to your coaches. At work, I find this is equally important. And I find it has become harder, more difficult in recent years. Because most of us, how many of you work in some sort of hybrid or remote form? Yep, it's pretty much all of us. It is getting harder to maintain relationships, so we need to put more effort into maintaining the relationships which are the foundations for us to have those hard conversations and to call out behavior and to give and receive feedback. And I think that is why it is really important to make sure that we also get to know each other as human beings and retain that team cohesion. And this is nothing against hybrid working or remote working. I love it. But I think this is just one of the weak spots where we need to make sure that we work against a weak spot. My fourth tip is to constantly chase excellence. And by that, I mean seeking out situations where you can learn. I want to just take you a little bit into the world of professional sports. And fundamentally, it's an exercise in pain management. You practice at least twice a day. And I don't know if any of you have tried this, but basically you practice and you do uphill sprints until you vomit. And then you do 5 more. And between the 2 times training a day, you do active recovery. And that's a bit like phase 2 in software development, meaning a big fat lie, which doesn't happen either. Active recovery is when you plunge into a hot pool, when you walk up a mountain to actively recover in between. So overall, there's a lot of work and a lot of pain involved. And after a few years of this, where this got me was the Olympic Games, where the saying of no pain, no Spain. And the thing is that first you put in the work, then you might or might not get the reward. Because there's no guarantee that you will actually succeed, that this is going to pay off. So we work very hard, and we work very hard to maximize the likelihood of success. And because the stakes are high, there's a lot of pressure. And I think we need to work even harder, because I don't know who said it, but I thought it was very wise that under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training. And speaking of pressure, that pressure, I love Billie Jean King say that pressure is a privilege. Because pressure comes from expectations you put on yourself, from the standards you want to achieve, and also from the outside. But what we need to think about, and what we learn to think about, is that this pressure is a privilege. Because if you're average, if you're below average, if you don't put high standards on yourself, there's no pressure. So pressure is something good. You get to do that. I get to stand here in front of you and talk. Yeah, there's pressure, but it is a privilege. And I think a lot of this pressure comes from comparing ourselves. Comparison has got this really bad rap, but I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing to look at people who are really world-class and out there, and then not beat yourself up, but think about, this is an inspiration. This is how good it is possible to be. And then analyze the gaps. What are the things I need to learn to be at that level? And I know we teach our children to not compare themselves and teach them that they're good enough. But I'm not saying compete. I'm not saying smash them. I'm saying just compare and use it as fuel and as an inspiration. Because there's nothing bad about not being at a particular level. It is a good thing to know where you're at and what you can learn. I'm currently putting myself through that situation. Like there's this move in CrossFit, which is called the bar muscle up, where you just like swing off the bar and you just get on top of the bar. And it completely eludes me. And I'm trying desperately to try this movement, applying what I just said to myself. It's the compare myself to people who are really good at it. I'm quite bad at it. I can't do it, obviously. Find out where my gaps are, and then applying who to get feedback from. So I chose the best coach who will still work with me. And I listen to that coach. I don't listen to all the other people who, with the best intention, have great tips. I ignore them. Thank you. I ignore them. And I do trust my coach and do as she says. And of course I'm asking why, and if she can't answer that, we've got a problem. But I do what that person says, and I get over my ego, and I'm coachable. What that means for you in the workplace is, first of all, yes, compare. Go out and see. Go to other companies, go to other teams within your organization and see what they are doing. What did they excel at? What can you steal? Where are you not at the same level? What can you learn? And once you've done that, I like, for myself and also people I coach, make a 2-year development plan. Who do you want to be in 2 years? What kind of character skills, character traits, what kind of skills do you want to have 2 years from now? And then make a plan for how to get there. It's an Australian company that I think is really cool. They make all their personal development plans for their employees just based on who do you want to be in 2 years. I think it's very cool. And my last tip is to manage your beliefs. And that's beliefs such as, well, I don't really think I've got what it takes to be world class. What's a belief? Or let me start with, as athletes, we don't just show up on the field and hope for the best. We put in quite a lot of mental work to be at the right state of arousal, to be in the right state of mind when we appear to a game. And that work we put in way before any game. It's training, very much like physical training. And we work with those beliefs. A belief is something that usually has been true at some point in your life. It's an experience that is true. And based on that experience, we create a narrative around it. Some of those beliefs are really helpful. Good. Others are not. I'll show you some of mine. Some of those inner narratives I have is, I can make it all way. I'm at my best when it really counts. And I don't break under pressure. And I believe that because, for example, when we did qualify for the Olympics, I spent 18 months coming from a team that was 25, 30 people trying to make the last 14 that would make the team. And a week before they decided who would go, they told me, and do you remember Leo, my best friend Leo? Told Leo and me, well, we're going to have one game against the US, and you're going to play a half-time each. And then we're going to decide which one of you two is going to get the ticket. I couldn't imagine any greater pressure ever in my life. And Leo went out and just really played the game of her life. So I had 30 minutes to do the same. And I went out there and I played for 30 minutes and I played a bloody good game. And in the end, they chose a third player to remain home and we both made the team. But since then, I tell myself, I have one example and I've formed the narrative that I don't break under pressure. As an agile coach, things like people like working with me. They usually do. I can take any collection of people and form a team out of them. And I can make you all love agile ways of working. But there's also the ugly narratives, and we all have them too. And they're the opposite, like, I always miss those penalties. Can't be consistent with my nutrition. And if I don't learn fast enough, I'll be replaced. The bad thing about those narratives is they used to be true. Like being the worst player on the best team that would accept me at the time, if I didn't learn fast enough, I'm off the team. Now, trying to learn those bar muscle-ups, it's totally hurting me because I know rationally it's totally wrong, but I still have in my head, if I don't learn this quickly enough, my coach is going to drop me. I need to learn faster. I need to learn faster. So that's a non-serving belief. I still have some others, like public speaking is not my thing. I can't work with bureaucracies. And I'm a bit of a fraud as an agile coach. The last one, that's just normal imposter syndrome, and I don't even think that exists. We all have that sometimes, and it's just whenever there's a challenge, most of us just go, oh, I'm not really sure I can make it. And that's a belief that I think is so common that we all need to work on getting rid of it. But the thing is, what we do about changing beliefs is we can't just tell ourselves the opposite. Like, I'm a great agile coach. It doesn't help because I wouldn't believe it. So what we need to do is, first of all, catch the narrative whenever it comes up. So you think, I always miss those penalties. I always say the wrong thing. Whenever it comes up, just catch it, note it down. And then we need to replace those stories with something else. So whenever I do score a penalty, or whenever I do say the right thing, make sure I note that, make sure I realize this is happening. And the basic idea is to have the narrative and then add more and more proof of the opposite when we didn't do the thing on top of it. So we basically bury the bad narrative, the non-serving narrative. My tip is to do this every night. Just pick one narrative that you have, one non-serving belief, and then every evening, do as many wins as possible. Did you catch it, and did you do the opposite? And you'll see that over time, you will have replaced that narrative. That's all the tips I have. I think that should be a pretty good starting point. So here's a cheat sheet that I will leave you with. Take a photo. Live by my words. And before I leave you entirely, I've got a bonus tip. If you're trying to decide whether you should do something or not, the rule I go by, if I feel fear and excitement at the same time, I know I'm in the right place. If I feel I'm not really sure I can do it and there's some degree of fear, but also, oh my God, it'd be amazing if I could, and there's excitement, I know I should totally do it. Because if I know that I can do it, what's the point? It's kind of boring. So this is how you recognize that you should choose your next challenge. And with that, I just want to say, go out, chase excellence, and have fun. And come to my next talk tomorrow.